Madam Chair, we are now live.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Accessibility Advisory Committee for the Town of Ajax on the evening of Wednesday, October the 21st, 2020. Due to current pandemic restrictions, we are unable to meet in person, so this meeting is being electronically held and live streamed over the internet. All regular practices and procedures of the committee are in effect. If we encounter any technical difficulties, we may take a brief recess before returning after all difficulties have been fixed. We will now proceed with our meeting. Before I go any further, we need someone to put forward a motion to adopt the minutes of our previous meeting, Wednesday, September the 23rd, 2020. Do I have someone to put forward that motion?
I did.
Heather is raising her hand. I think, guys, just a point of order. Maybe you should just say your name. It'll make it easier for our chair.
Yes,
Okay,
please. Thank you. Do I have a seconder?
I second it, Ray Smith.
Thank you. Motion carried. All right. And before we go any further now, does anyone have any items of conflict of interest that they feel they need to declare before we proceed? Okay, so none being indicated, let's proceed with our meeting. Moving on to presentations and discussion items. First off, we have item 4.1, Durham Region Transit Service Redesign and Transit System Enhancement. Welcome, Mr. Austin and Mr. Benetti from Durham Region Transit.
Well, thank you very much for having us this evening. It's great to be back before the committee. I think it was probably pretty close to a year ago. I'd last joined you to talk about the launch of our transit assistance program that we were introducing for Ontario Works and Ontario Disability Support Program clients. So it's great to be back, and it certainly has been an eventful year since then. I think for all of us, and that certainly holds for the transit industry more broadly, and for DRT more specifically. So we're gonna walk you through how our response evolved over the course of the past 6 months since the COVID pandemic hit back in March. We'll touch on the recent service changes that were introduced at the end of September. And then Michael's also going to, we're going to take this opportunity if we can. We wanted to chat with you a bit about some social equity principles that we are developing to guide our service planning going forward. And yeah, we'd appreciate any feedback you have this evening on that, or could certainly welcome any comments you want to provide to us afterwards. So I'm going to attempt to share my screen here and just get some slides up. Okay, is that visible for everybody?
Meeting.
So let's see if I can get it into full screen here. There we go. Okay. So I think as we all know, back in March, the COVID-19 pandemic settled in, and it really followed. 2019 had been our highest ridership year ever. And in January and February of 2020, we were above target again in terms of our ridership targets. And on our way to setting another all-time high for transit ridership in Durham. Pandemic hit in March, and we hit the wall like so many of our colleagues in the transit industry. And it required us to respond with some significant steps rapidly for the protection of our customers, for our staff, and for other contractors that we work with who support our day-to-day operations. So on March 19th, we began implementing a number of safety measures that included the suspension of fare collection and the implementation of rear door boarding, just to ensure the sufficient distancing between customers and our staff. We limited the number of passengers on board the bus. At that point, about half a bus load of 15 customers, and implemented enhanced cleaning standards. On March 23rd, we did introduce our first service changes. It was about a 20% reduction in our services at that time in response to the significant decline in ridership that we experienced. We also had ongoing consultations with public health in Durham, as well as the Ministry of Labor, and that included some guidance and direction from them on putting in place appropriate safety protocols, particularly with respect to specialized operations or specialized services, where that distancing was more difficult to achieve, because our specialized operators are often in close contact with customers using those services in order to support boarding and securement on board the vehicle. So that we ended up implementing new protocols for protective equipment for our operators on our specialized services. On our conventional services, we required our operators to remain in their seat, and we're no longer able to assist passengers with boarding and securement on the bus. Customers who required that were encouraged to contact our specialized services, and were accommodated through that service during this period of time. In June, as a result of sustained decline in ridership, we did introduce another service reduction, and we ended up suspending a number of our lower ridership routes that often we're seeing, one or fewer riders on some of these trips, but at the same time ensuring that other service options were available within a reasonable distance. July 2nd, we did resume fare collection, and there were a number of changes in the fare products that were made available that were implemented at that time. I've got a slide in a couple ahead that we'll speak to a little bit more detail on that. And then in September, through efforts on the part of Presto and other transit partners, we did launch Presto e-ticket app in an effort to provide another contactless and convenient and safe payment option for customers. And then at the end of September, we introduced our Stage A service recovery plan that Michael's going to get into in a little bit more detail, that included the launch of an expanded on-demand service in Durham. Now, the impact, I spoke to the impact of the pandemic on our ridership, and really more than, we've seen more than a 70% reduction in ridership at its peak back in the spring. So a significant decline over what we typically see at that time of year. And the chart along the bottom, and I apologize, I know it's a little small, but it's really just to give a bit of a sense of that difference between ridership in 2020, which is shown in the orange line, and ridership in 2019, which is shown in the blue. So, we were down over 70%. We're still down, roughly 60% today. There has been a slow and steady increase over the past few months in ridership, but still, significantly below where we typically are. We're about a third of what our normal ridership is on a day-to-day basis. Our fare suspension obviously had a significant fiscal impact, and had we maintained that fare suspension throughout the year, we would have been looking at more than a $20 million deficit by year end. So some of the service changes we implemented, resuming fare collection, have helped us to mitigate much of that impact, although we're still looking at probably a $6 to $7 million impact by year end. So I mentioned the resumption of fare collection and the decisions that went with that. These were not easy decisions to make. They were made in consultation with our partners at Durham Public Health and with, again, the safety of our customers, our staff, and some of the, and when I say staff, not just the operators who are obviously in the seat on the bus, but we do have a number of staff and other service providers that support our fare collection. But there's a whole supply chain kind of behind the scenes that require a number of people to interact with the equipment and to service it and to collect things like cash and transfers at the end of the day. So we made the decision at that point to remove some of the common touch points that were perceived to present risk, again, to staff and to customers. That resulted in the discontinuation of our paper passes that we had available, with the exception of the Access Pass, which is our reduced cost pass for Ontario Disability Support Program clients. Just recognizing the difficulty that that group in particular may have in making the transition to other fare payment options. The sale of tickets was restricted as well. We continue to make those available, but to community agencies only. Again, recognizing their customers may require some form of transit support. We did make, again, the difficult decision to suspend the issuance of transfers for cash and for ticket fare payments. And I think this was one of the questions that was submitted in advance. And it was a decision made, again, in consultation with public health, looking at those common touch points in the payment system to eliminate that risk. And so it does mean that individuals paying cash or with tickets are required to pay each time they board a vehicle. To help to remove that impact, we did make available, it says more than 4,000 free cards. We've actually distributed well over 5,200 free cards now since July to support customers in making the transition to Presto. And as well, we launched the new e-ticketing app. Even before all of this, Presto offered cost savings over cash payment. So 75 cents on every trip is the savings if you paid with Presto instead of cash. Over 14 trips, that actually saves you $10. So it always has been the more affordable option when making payment. And by making the cards, which come with a $6 fee, typically making them available for free, it helped to reduce one of those barriers to adoption. And we're actually been excited looking at some of the numbers. The biggest group to actually transition to Presto has been seniors, which has been great to see. And they've really taken advantage of the free cards that have been available. I kind of jumped ahead there. I mentioned Presto e-tickets. It's a new app that was developed, and I want to give credit to Metrolinx here. They did work with us very closely to expedite the development of this app. Process that normally takes them 9 months to develop a new product like this, we were able to do in about 9 weeks. And that's just a testament to the effort to introduce a new contactless, safe payment option available on smartphones, and one that's accepted across all of our services, so our scheduled, our specialized, and our on-demand services, not all of which we're currently equipped to be able to accommodate payment with the Presto card. This is just a quick look at the electronic tickets. So we do have adult, senior, and youth single ride fares and monthly passes available through the app. The tickets can be purchased for travel companions as well. So you can purchase up to 20 tickets at a time. You can kind of use them all as you wish, or you can have other travel companions ride with you. One of the great things is you do need an internet connection to purchase the tickets, but you don't need one to ride. Once you purchase the ticket, it's downloaded to your phone, and then you can activate it without a connection when you're boarding the bus. The single ride tickets are active for 2 hours. So once you activate the ticket on your phone, it'll remain active for 2 hours, and you can travel as many times as you want in those 2 hours. The monthly passes would be available until the last day of the month. There's a number of security features just to demonstrate to the operator that it's valid. There's a number of screen animations with moving, you can see on the green ticket here, the DRT logo that scrolls across the screen. There's a date and timestamp that updates to show it's the current time. And there's a color change. So when you board, you tap the screen and the color of the ticket changes to show the operator that it's a valid ticket. So the adult ticket changes from green to blue, a senior ticket from green to red, and a youth ticket from green to yellow. We've seen some good adoption so far. It's been growing quite steadily since it was introduced in September. And we're excited about some of the features that are to come that will, I think, be helpful for community organizations to be able to acquire tickets and then forward them to their clients to use when traveling on DRT. So I'm going to pause there. I'm going to pass it over to Michael now and ask him to come on. He'll speak to the service changes that we've recently put in place.
Thanks, Jamie. So on September 28th, DRT did unveil a revised recovery network throughout Durham region. And we took the current ridership and also projections for ridership going into the short and medium term until the pandemic is under full control, and estimated that the ridership is going to remain suppressed for quite a while. And so this new network is designed to gradually change with the change in ridership. So if ridership starts to go up, we can add service and routes in. And if we enter a larger lockdown, hopefully we don't, it can also be, the service can be adjusted if ridership further declines. And so this new network still maintains a scheduled bus route within about a 10-minute walk or 800 meters of 80% of dwellings in the urban area of Durham region. And the scheduled service routes still serve about 90% of the ridership that was on the service previous to the service change. So that leaves about 10% of the current ridership in on-demand zones. And these on-demand zones are in areas where ridership has really declined over the course of the pandemic, primarily due to two reasons. There's much less secondary school travel and also much less travel to downtown Toronto. Both of these commutes tend to attract a high level of transit usage. And so in those neighborhoods where a lot of that travel was occurring, it has really dried up right now. And so on-demand allows us to provide service there, even though the ridership there can't support a scheduled service at this time. So similar to the scheduled routes, on-demand is available early in the morning to late at night, and you can book it as close to 15 minutes before you need a ride. And we're continuing to monitor this new network, and in areas where there is on-demand, once ridership recovers to a level that can support a scheduled bus route again, then that bus route will be implemented at that time. Next slide, please. Thanks. So this is the current network that's operating as of September 28th. And the thick orange lines is our frequent network. So on those corridors there, service operates at least every 15 minutes or better, 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. Monday to Friday. And on weekends, the 915, 900, and 901 also operate every 15 minutes or better. And sorry, the 902, every 15 minutes or better, Saturday and Sunday between at least 7 to 7 as well. The skinnier orange lines are our grid route network, and those lines operate every 30 minutes or better, 7 days a week. The blue routes you see are more limited routes. So the 101 in South Pickering is a peak hour route. And then the dotted line you see in Ajax, the 291, that's a community route that primarily serves senior residences and medical facilities shopping. And then the 905 up in the top right corner is a rural route traveling into Port Perry and Uxbridge. So other than these three blue routes, all the other services run every 30 minutes or better now, 7 days a week. So that's an improvement. Prior to this service change, we had some routes that ran hourly. And then the shaded areas you see are the current on-demand zones. And so for Ajax, you can see Northwest Ajax, Northeast Ajax, Southwest and Southeast Ajax. And so these shaded areas are all on demand right now, but these are the areas we're monitoring, and when and if ridership recovers, you'll see a scheduled bus route implemented in these areas as the ridership recovers. And then this is just a map of our rural on-demand area. So this also saw an expansion on September 28th. And this is partly due to a rural transit review that we had conducted late last year into early this year. And it had recommended that all rural areas receive on-demand service. So with this change, all rural areas in Durham Region, including North Ajax, now have on-demand service. So it is possible to travel into North Ajax on-demand now from the urban part of Ajax or anywhere else in the region there. And I just want to highlight the Route 902 is our new route that operates between Oshawa Station, Oshawa Center Terminal, and Bowmanville along the Highway 2 East corridor. So that's a new extension to our transit network, and it is replacing the GO Route 90 service there. But with this connection here, we now have continuous DRT service east to west across the region. And so you may be asking, what is on demand? It's new. It's sort of new to Durham Region. We have been using it in the north rural areas for about 2 years now. However, it is new in the urban area. And so as I said, it is being implemented in areas where ridership is low right now, and this ridership can't support a scheduled bus route, or if it does, it could only support a very limited service, say hourly service till 5 or 6 p.m. You can book your trip with on-demand as close to 15 minutes before you wish to travel. You can do that either through a mobile app or on a phone with our booking agent. Regular DRT fares apply, and the service is provided by a mix of DRT vans, minivans or minibuses, and contracted sedans or vans. And within an urban on-demand zone, you can travel stop to stop, just like a regular bus route. You can travel from that zone to your local GO train station or to connecting bus routes or bus terminals in your municipality. And the service is quite extensive. It operates from 5 a.m. to midnight weekdays, 7 a.m. to midnight on Saturdays, and 7 a.m. to 10 p.m. on Sundays. So again, this is a great improvement over these local bus routes that we're running in some of these neighborhoods. So for example, Southwest Ajax had service only till 6 or 7 p.m. With the scheduled route now, it has this service till midnight and 10 p.m. Depending on the day of the week. And then the rural service operates 6 a.m. to midnight Monday to Friday, and then 7 a.m. to 9 p.m. on Saturdays and Sundays. And that just reflects the schedule of scheduled service that feeds into the rural areas. So that's the new network. And another exciting project we are working on at Durham Region Transit now is social equity guidelines. And so this is sort of a new topic in the Canadian transit planning field. It's much more prevalent in the United States due to their history of segregation and other social equity issues down there. And it's starting to make its way up into Canada, but not a lot of transit agencies have really done any research on this. So there's not a lot of Canadian context to it. And so we're one of the first transit agencies along with TTC to be delving into this and looking at how we can incorporate some equity guidelines into our transit planning. And so when we were looking at the equity priorities for Durham Region, this is the list or groups that we feel we need to ensure that we're including when we are planning transit service. And it's not to say that we're not already, but it's just to make sure that we're cognizant of the different experiences that these groups have when we are planning transit. So the groups are the ability to pay. So your income levels, can you pay a transit fare, or is it an onerous task for you? Single parent families, often if they don't have a car, single parent families have to travel on the bus multiple times in a day just to trip or chain their trips. So they may have to drop off a child at daycare and then get back on the bus to go to work or stop at the grocery store. And so if the transit service, for example, is not frequent enough, this can create long travel times for single parents. Newcomers to the region or Canada as a whole may not be familiar with public transit here or with the language, and so there could be barriers to accessing the service. So we want to make sure that we're making them comfortable and understanding of the transit system. Our Indigenous residents, we do service First Nations area, so just ensuring we keep them connected and in the decision-making process when planning transit. Language and literacy barriers, so ensuring the transit system is legible even if you have a barrier with literacy or language. Senior citizens, it's a growing demographic in Durham Region. Many seniors are now having to take transit after decades of driving due to medical or mobility reasons. And so they're sort of newcomers to transit again, and just ensuring that they're comfortable and the transit system is accessible to them and allows them to travel where they need to go. Youth are another big demographic that has started to skew more towards transit in the last 10 years. So again, ensuring transit meets their needs and that we can keep them on as lifelong travelers of transit. We have women listed. There's often security issues around bus stops that women particularly face compared to male riders. And so just keeping that safety and cognizant when we are planning where bus stops are and service. And then ability, so ensuring that the system is accessible for everyone. And that includes ensuring our bus stops are accessible, but also working with local municipalities to ensure that all our bus stops connect into a pedestrian network that is accessible to everyone. And in the Ajax context, we have been really, we have a great relationship with Ajax with doing this. We trialed rural bus stops connected into the pedestrian network up on Taunton Road between Salem and Westney. And so that's an example of how we would like to work further with Ajax and other municipalities to ensure moving forward that everything is accessible on the Durham Region network. So we do have some communities of focus for these groups in Durham Region, and one of them is our regional priority neighborhoods set by Durham Region Public Health. And so these areas just have some conditions that lend them to higher transit use. And in Ajax particular, that is the downtown Ajax area, is a priority neighborhood. So we just want to ensure that while we want to ensure service is available to everyone in Durham Region, we do pay attention to make sure these neighborhoods have proper connections to where the residents need to go. These residents often are employed in more precarious employment that has earlier or later start times. So ensuring transit is providing that access to those employment areas. And another interesting one we came across with these neighborhoods was access to healthcare. So ensuring that the transit system provides adequate connections to health facilities because these neighborhoods actually have higher 911 calls because people are using 911 as their primary care instead of visiting a medical doctor, for example. So that was some interesting stats that came out of that one. And then in Durham Region's case, a unique one for us is rural areas. So the significant majority of Durham's territory is rural, and rural areas are experiencing demographic shifts right now, which are making transit more of an issue out in rural areas where it wasn't, say, 10 or 20 years ago. And so transit is becoming more important as people are aging in place in rural areas and youth are moving out to urban areas, and rural businesses are trying to attract workers from the urban area. Next slide. And so these are some of the guidelines and goals that we're looking at in this draft equity proposal here. So supportive infrastructure, so ensuring that shelters are located near priority areas such as hospitals, senior facilities, priority neighborhoods, and working, as I said, with local municipalities towards a complete pedestrian network across the region, linking into our transit infrastructure. Service coverage and availability, so ensuring that we have different models of transit that allow us to provide a good level of service to all areas of Durham Region. And you're seeing that with this Phase A service here with the mix of on-demand and scheduled service. Service span and frequency, so again, just ensuring service is there when it is needed and to support economic development and employees and employers. And then we're also looking at ensuring our transit service is equitable in our employment areas. So there's a regional report going out looking at our employment areas. So we want to ensure transit is able to support new and existing ones in their regeneration economically. And that's a quick overview of our draft equity guidelines. Again, it is draft and we're looking for your input if you feel we missed anything or there's something that we should pay a little bit more closer attention to, I would love to hear about that.
So thank you. Yes, we do appreciate the time, and I know there were some questions that came beforehand too that we'll make sure we do speak to before we end here today. But perhaps I don't know if there were any initial reactions or comments on the information that was shared here.
Madam Chair, I'd like to ask a question. It's Councillor Khan. You're mute. You're muted.
Of course, please proceed.
Thank you very much. Both gentlemen, Mr. Austin and Mr. Is it Benetti? Benetti, right?
Yep, you got it.
Thank you very much. Yes. Thank you for that great presentation. Mr. Austin, first thing I noticed, you said that you had suspended your fees from March 19th, and you restarted your resumed fare collection in July 2, correct?
That's right. Yep.
And then if you had continued not collecting fare, you would have lost about $20 million by year end.
That's correct. Yeah.
And within the period of between March and July, you lost $6 to $7 million.
Sorry, March to July. Yes, it would have been in that
Around that area.
that
So
vicinity. Yep.
just curious, was this money subsidized with any part of government, provincial or federal?
Yeah, I mean, we took a number of measures to try to control our costs at the same time that we were reinstating fares to help to bridge that gap, and we got that gap down to, as I say, the $8 million range towards year end. Now, the government has come forward, the provincial government, with Safe Restart funding, and there is a portion of that funding that is made available to transit agencies. We're just going through that process now of finalizing our submission for that funding. So we're hopeful of that for 2020 at least, that will help to bridge the gap. 2021 is going to be a different story because we just don't know how long the impacts of the pandemic are going to extend. And at this point, there is no funding commitments for 2021.
Wonderful. Thank you for that answer. And I just, I understand now that if these questions aren't asked at a government level, sometimes it will be just pushed under the carpet. So I did that on purpose, and to know that people are interested. And I want to thank you for taking care of our residents, especially our challenge and our residents that require accessibility. So no, I really thank you for that. Thank you, Mr. Austin. Mr. Benetti, you said North Ajax was just introduced to the on-demand service, correct?
Correct. Yes, the rural area, so north of Taunton Road.
Right. So that's the area that I do represent, and my residents would be very grateful if they knew this. And is there any messaging out there that I can use on my medias to educate the residents of Ajax, including North Ajax, which I represent? Is there anything out there or anything that can be arranged that we can have?
We do have information on our website. We can email you the link to the on-demand area, and also if there is like a group that you can get together, say we have done an online before, like an online little info session on how to use on-demand. So we could for sure do that if you were to say set up a time, like a virtual time, say 7 p.m. and we could for sure do something like that to let residents know about the service. But other than that, it has been advertised on our website and in like local media, and we can provide the link to the service.
Okay, well, I'll talk with Ms. Moore and get in contact with you, and then we can get that information. But I know I've never been on a bus, and I'm 50 years old. I don't think I'm going to start anytime soon. But my residents will be very, very grateful to hear about this.
Don't sell it short. We'd love to have you out to take a ride.
Well, you know what, Sarah, you and I did that. We did our committee. We went on the bus. We went to the RT. We did go for a. Well, we didn't go for a ride. No, we just stopped. And anyways, I need to go on a bus. I need to go for a ride. So, but thank you very much. And I will be sure to bring this. I'll follow up to get the messaging to share with North Ajax. All right.
For sure. Thank you.
Thank you for this wonderful demonstration, gentlemen. We all do really appreciate it.
Madam Chair, for your speakers list, I saw Heather raise her hand as well as Catherine, and we have several members joining us by telephone we may want to check in with afterward.
And Ray Smith has got a question too.
Thank you.
Start with Heather, please.
Hi there, and hi, Jamie and everyone here. Jamie, I have a question regarding a senior that I know that had a Presto card, but she loaded it online. When she got on the bus, the card there was no funds there. So the driver charged her $4. I didn't understand that a senior is being charged $4. Could you address that, please? Thank you.
Yeah, certainly. I appreciate the question. Prior to the pandemic, actually, it was last December, we went forward with a long-term fare strategy to the Region's Transit Executive Committee to be approved. And as part of that, it was setting us on a course to promote electronic fare payment. This is outside of the pandemic. So we were and we are contractually obligated to increase our Presto adoption rate under the agreement with the province. So as part of that, we did take forward a fare program that would adjust the fares towards a flat a flat cash fare for all riders. And that included the move to a $4 flat fare for customers paying in cash. So that would have been the circumstances here. Those were decisions that were made prior to the pandemic. And I know when we came back in July to resume fare collection, there were questions we got about why we were increasing fares at that time too. But those were the 2020 fares that had been approved, and our fares are always fare changes are always implemented as of May 1st. And there's a lot of programming behind the scenes that has to happen with Presto to prepare for that. So that was all already in the system prior to us going into fare suspension. So when we returned in July, these fare changes, which were the 2020 approved fares, were in effect at that point.
Can I comment?
Absolutely.
This happened last week. I had gone in to put some money on my Presto card, and I put on $25. The next morning, I got on the bus, and the driver said, "No, there isn't any money there." And I said, "Yes, I did it." And then he's telling me that it takes 12 to 48 hours to get money on the thing, and sometimes 48 hours. So I said, "Well, I did it yesterday." And his comment was, "Well, it's $4. And that
Can I intervene? Can I please intervene here?
Can I finish my sentence?
Can I please intervene here? Given that this is a personal transit issue, I'm going to ask that this be referred to perhaps either of our gentlemen here, or through Sarah or through customer service, but I'm going to ask that this be addressed at a time other than this meeting, please.
This is something that is happening on the buses a lot, and I think that we need to discuss these things, because how else are you going to know what's going on unless somebody says this is what is happening? And the driver ended up saying it'll be a minimum of 24 hours. It could be 48 hours, and was asking. And I didn't mind the $4, but it just, as a person using a scooter and having a large disability and getting on a bus and then being told that there's no money to use, that's number one. Anyway, let me get on to number 2, 3, and 4. Thank you.
Madam Chair, if I could just interject here, if we could try to keep with our speakers list just to keep organized throughout the discussion here. Definitely everyone will have an opportunity to speak, but just to assist with organizational purposes, that would be much appreciated. If I could also just interject to ask a quick question as a follow-up to this in terms of communication regarding Presto. For those who might be new and transitioning to this method of payment, is there communication and notification of the delay for the fees to be loaded onto one's card, and how is that communicated?
So if it's okay with the chair, and I can respond
Of
to
course.
those issues that have come up, and I will say yes, that delay is an unfortunate feature of the current Presto equipment. It does take typically up to 24 hours for funds that are loaded online to appear on the card. Now we are, as of this moment, about halfway through the replacement of all of our Presto devices with the next generation equipment. The existing equipment's 10 years old now. It's at its end of life. It's being replaced with new equipment, and that is going to reduce once we have that completed, which is expected in November. That will reduce that, we call it upload or download time for the funds to get onto the card to about an hour. And then Presto is anticipating that it will be almost real time by the midpoint of 2021. So we're excited for that because we know this has been a source of frustration for some time for customers. I can tell you today the end is near to the delay of that duration, but it is an unfortunate future for funds that are loaded online currently. If you went into a Shoppers Drug Mart or one of the other DRT Presto points of sale at the Oshawa Center or the Pickering Town Center or our location at just on the south end of the Ajax GO station, and you load your funds onto the card there, that happens instantaneous. It's on your card and ready to go. It is, as I say, just an unfortunate feature of the current online load with the current Presto devices. But as I said, by November, we're hoping that delay is almost entirely taken care of.
Okay, so let's move on to Katrine, please. Katrine, did you have a question?
Can't hear you.
Sorry. Just a quick question about on-demand services. Being that I use a mobility scooter, is that an option with the on-demand?
I believe the question is, can on-demand accommodate someone with a scooter?
Yes.
Yeah, I'll start, and if Michael wants to jump in, yes. When you go on and you book your trip, it will ask if you have a mobility device, and that will help our booking agents to make sure that the appropriate vehicle arrives to assist you in that regard. Michael, was there anything else to expand on that one?
No, that was it. Yeah, you just select that you need an accessible service, and the service will be accessible.
It's nice to hear, because I know with booking transit, specialized transit, sometimes you have to book a week in advance. So if I can use on demand and book it within a half hour, that's better.
Yeah,
Yes,
sorry, go ahead, Michael.
So the only difference with on-demand compared to specialized is specialized will pick you up at your curb. On-demand in the urban area, you do have to go to the closest bus stop. So as long as you're okay with that, then on-demand is an option.
That's great. Thank you.
Yeah, and with on-demand, we do say you can book as little as 15 minutes in advance. I think we're seeing right now the average wait time is less than 10 minutes, which has been a positive start for us.
Awesome. Thank you very much.
Can you explain that, please? How you manage that? How we manage that?
Sorry, how we manage which portion of that? Sorry.
Yeah, on demand. When can I call? How fast does it get there? How far will it take me?
Well, those circumstances, you say how long it will take to get there will depend on where you are. So in places like Ajax, the current wait time right now is I think less than 8 minutes on average. You can travel, and Michael, I don't know I can't recall if you touched on this in your presentation. You can travel kind of stop to stop within one of those zones. If you're traveling a longer distance, the on-demand service will connect you into one of our scheduled services, and then you would transfer to the bus, and it would take you the remainder of your trip, and perhaps you're connecting at the other end to another on-demand service, just depending on the nature of the trip and where you're going. You can book weekdays in our urban areas between 5 a.m. and 12 a.m. or midnight. You can do that either through the DRT On Demand app on your smartphone, or by calling one of our booking agents, and you can book it with a live person if that's what you prefer. So there's a couple of different options available to you on that.
And if it's you can book the same day of travel. So let's say it's 7 a.m. and you know you want to be picked up at the bus stop at 5 p.m. You can pre-book the day of for your trip later in the day as well. So you can do it. You could do it like right now. You could just request a trip now, and chances are you might get the trip within 7 minutes. Or if you know you're traveling, say at 8 p.m., then you just pre-book for that time.
So that driver would pick you up at the corner under the 7 minutes or whatever, and take you all the way to Pickering, sort of thing, or do you have to transfer in between?
No, it depends on what zone you're in. So let's use Southwest Ajax as an example, like Westney Lake Driveway area. So if you were in that zone, that on-demand service would take you to Ajax Station, where you can then transfer onto the GO train or connecting DRT routes. Or you could travel within that Southwest Ajax zone, stop to stop with on-demand.
Well, that's a big help. Some of these things we haven't heard of before. One of my other ones, I travel from.
The chair,
I thought you were on the speakers list.
we do have a speakers list, so we will have to return to the speakers list so everyone has a fair chance to ask at least one question. I believe next on the speakers list is Ray, then I saw Roseanne, and then back to Heather and Barb again.
Fantastic presentation, guys. This on demand, I think you've opened up a very positive can of worms. I have a question, just adding on to Councillor Khan's question. I presented one of the questions about Route 232. I live in Pickering Village. Can I book on demand, but would it go just on that bus schedule? Because to answer another question, I couldn't put an on-demand bus to Sobeys. It has to be on a schedule, right?
It has so it has to be. I think you mean like the bus route, right? So it would have to be, it would have to be between the stops in that specific on-demand zone. So for Pickering Village, most of the stops are located along the Church Street corridor, so it would have to be along those stops on Church Street, or it'll take you to the Ajax GO station where you can then transfer onto other DRT routes, or to Highway 2 where you can transfer to Pulse.
Well, this is great information to know, and I hope you guys can communicate it more, because I sit on the age-friendly Ajax committee, and I'm hoping that, I'm sure it is on their radar as well, but this is fantastic information.
And
sorry, go ahead, Michael. Go ahead.
Sorry, your question was about whether the 232 was ever going to come back.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
Okay, so this Pickering Village Northwest Ajax is one of the on-demand zones, so we are monitoring the ridership, and if the ridership does come back to where it can support the 232 service again, then you will see that re-implemented. But it has to reach certain ridership thresholds where it makes more economic sense to operate a bus route again through that corridor.
Michael, maybe while we're on that, you're talking the 232, there was another question about the 291. Were you able to speak to that one as well?
Yes, so there was a question about the 291 bus stop at Pickering Town Center, and at this time we were not planning on moving it. It is going to stay at the Hudson, just south of the Hudson's Bay entrance, which positions it near the doors to access the mall and also near our Pickering Parkway terminal. There's still ongoing construction that will be occurring in the mall area, and we don't want the bus like navigating through the tight laneways and the tight access road areas through the parking lot there. So the stop will be remaining near the Hudson's Bay entrance for now.
Okay, Roseanne, you're up.
Thank you, Julia. Well, thank you, gentlemen, for the presentation. That was wonderful, and your follow-up answers to the questions. So something that just came up, traveling on the north end of the Durham corridor. So say, for example, North Ajax. This brings me to a clarification question on north of Taunton in Ajax is all like golf course and Greenwood Conservation Area. Are you thinking of north of that, or that's
Yeah,
first
so-
clarification, sorry.
So basically north of Taunton is where it gets into rural Ajax. So that
Okay.
would be the area that's covered by the rural on-demand area. So rural on-demand will pick you up, for example, at the curb if you're on a farm property up in North Ajax or anything, or even the golf course entrance. It would, because there's no bus stops up there, so that's considered the rural on-demand area.
Right. So let me just, as a clarification, for someone that I know that travels from Myrtle Station, if the movement in that north end, if you can give me an example, say from around Myrtle Station, Raglan to North Oshawa, like Durham College, for example, how do you
So
have
if
movement?
you're, let's say you're in Myrtle, and again, it's going to depend on where the trip is going to, but
Yeah, let's like from there to say Durham College, for example.
Okay, so you would be fed into the closest scheduled service to continue further into the urban area. So if you're up at Raglan, let's do Myrtle Station. You'd be fed into probably Raglan or Columbus, like the closest bus stop where you can transfer onto in this case, the 905 bus that goes up and down Simcoe Street.
If I can suggest, one of the other things we really didn't mention tonight was DRT has adopted Transit app as our preferred trip planner. So if you download Transit app and you open it and you enter kind of where you're starting from and where you want to go, it will present you with trip options. If that trip includes an on-demand segment, or if it's your only option, you'll be able to click a button and it will open the DRT on-demand app so you can book your trip right away. So it just makes it a little bit easier for people, as I say, who may not know. I don't go anywhere without Michael, because Michael's like a trip planner, walking trip planner.
If you don't have me with you, this is great. So Transit app and DRT on demand.
Yeah.
Oh, great. I asked that on behalf of someone with a disability that would travel that way. And with your social equity guidelines that you're creating, I find that very intriguing. I'm assuming it's in its early stages.
Yeah, so we have the draft reports on, and now we're seeking information or feedback from groups such as this one on any comments or.
Because I know one specifically the Indigenous communities, for example. We don't have like grouped Indigenous communities per se, but they're scattered across, well, mostly the Durham core, and some are reviving themselves. Well, I guess that, I'm just thinking that the aspects of mental health come into play here, and response to those with invisible disabilities that use the transit systems. I just put that out there. I know you probably can't respond to that right now, but the invisible.
Our abilities sort of grouping there. That one includes physical and also disabilities that you can't see physically or mental. So we are encompassing the whole.
Oh, great. Okay, because the response to that may be different. Yeah. Great. Okay, that's all. Thank you.
Madam Chair, we can't hear you.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. I think we have Heather next.
Hi there, guys. I have a lot of questions, but I'm trying to, let's just say, shorten it. I know that Premier of Ontario has talked about the 2 meter or foot distance that we must maintain, masks and so on and so forth. Can you address that? Sorry about the clock. Sorry, it says it's 7 o'clock. Anyway, can you address the fact that in taxis, when they're doubling up, that there's no distance, when in fact, perhaps one of the passengers is going to a hotspot such as Orchard Villa?
Yeah, no, thank you for the question. It's an important one, and I appreciate you raising it. I know it came through on the questions that were submitted in advance. To be honest, it wasn't clear if it was in reference to one of our taxi providers or perhaps our specialized services. So I appreciate you you raising that. So yes, I mean, there are a number of precautions that have been put in place, and that includes with our passengers and what the expectations are when they use DRT during the pandemic. We do encourage distancing on board our vehicles as much as possible. We know that's not always possible, and in accordance with the guidelines that were issued by the Ministry of Transportation, we do expect that our customers will wear face coverings, recognizing that distancing will not be possible at all on board our services at all times. Now, our operators are not in a position to enforce that. We can remind and request that people do wear a face covering, but are not in all circumstances. If individuals have a medical condition, or depending on their age, if they're really young, they may not be able to wear a mask. Now, our operators can, in the event of behavior that we anticipate is putting others at risk, contact police services to respond if necessary, and that has happened in some circumstances. But it does come with a level of disruption, obviously, for the service and the other passengers that are on board as well. So it is a very difficult situation, and we are appealing regularly, and we continue to communicate to customers what the expectations are around face coverings, around maintaining social distancing when possible, and with respect to completing screening that all passengers are expected to complete before they board, and with specific instructions that if you have any symptoms or have been in close contact with individuals with symptoms or who are awaiting results of a test, that you not use or board one of our vehicles. And that extends to our on-demand service and to the taxis as well.
Is it possible, Jamie, for them to have a device to check your temperature, like when you enter each building? Is it not possible that the taxi driver has that device that they can check your temperature?
Yeah, it's not something that just because of the well, I don't want to say it's because of the amount of time or that it would take. I don't think it's a bad suggestion. I appreciate that suggestion. It's something we can take back. It's not something I'm aware of that's been implemented on any system at this point, or something that had been recommended at this point. But I have to say it's not a bad suggestion. I think it's something that we can take back with us and have conversations on our end. So appreciate it.
Okay, so due to time constraints at this point in time, we're going to move to Barb. Barb, if we could have one last question, please, and then any other questions or comments that unfortunately we can't get to tonight, they can be forwarded to DRT through Sarah. So Barb, if we could have your one last question, that would be great.
One. Okay, yes. I am on Harwood Road south of Bailey, and I go twice weekly to near Glen Anna, where the Ajax Community Center is with the pool and all that, which is quite a distance away from it. And that seems to be the closest stop to be able to get off to go to that community center is the one on Glen Anna where they have the little glass containers for us to sit there and stay warm. Going across there so often, I am finding it like from Harwood to get across to Liverpool, you're talking like at least 30 minutes. That's a long trip because by the time it goes up into the Ajax GO station and all over the place, but it really is a long trip when you're sitting there on a scooter. And I must comment that the drivers are really fantastic, most of them. And I just love them. So, and this is, how are you today? But I'm having a problem with the actual bus because when it comes off Kingston Road and heads south on Glen Anna, and you're in one of these little shelters, the buses are coming down at you. And I've noticed that it seems that the word thing across the top, what's the name of it? Above the windshield.
We call them the destination sign.
Destination sign, thank you. Okay, sometimes there's a whole bunch of things written on there and it flips and it flips and it flips. And I'm finding that it flips so much that the buses are almost going by you. And I'm getting to the point I have to come out of the shelter and wave down the buses and say, just a minute, and put my fingers up, just a minute, just a minute. No, I don't need you, and wave them on. There's got to be some way that the buses, as they're coming towards you, can see in large letters, we can see that it's the 917 is coming. Not waiting until they get there. And sometimes I have, 3 buses go by that are the wrong ones, but you pop out and you look and you wait and you have to wave the drivers down. And I was wondering if there's some way that the destination sign could have a section, say 8 inches on one side that just has the bus number. And then the writing with all the other stuff is on the other side. If that is possible. If it isn't, is it possible to print some signs that said 719 and the driver puts it in his windshield? Because it really is a pain when the drivers keep pulling over and then you say, whoops, wait a minute, wait a minute, wait a minute. Nope, don't want you. You know what I mean? Can you imagine driving a bus and suddenly all these people are saying they don't want you?
Yeah, one of the, I appreciate that comment. Back in I guess it was September 18th, there was an announcement made with the federal and provincial governments about some funding, big investment that was being made in a number of transit projects in Durham through the Investing in Canada Infrastructure program. One of those projects involves the replacement of our destination signs with new, brighter, larger letters that make it easier to read and that they're more accessible. So we're excited to get that project going. We're very grateful for the funding that's been made available for us to do that. And say hopefully it will make it easier to see those signs at more of a distance, so that, as you say, if when it gets within close distance, that it's it's showing the information that you need to see to decide whether that's the right bus for you.
That's true. And when you do it often, it's you're sitting there waiting, and you pop out of the shelter and you wait and you wave them on, and the drivers sort of look at you and you go, well, hey, there's a whole bunch of buses going through.
Yeah, so we're aware of that issue, as I say, and we're excited to be moving forward with the replacement of those the existing destination signs with ones that are a bit more accessible and certainly easier to read.
Yeah, at this time we also appreciate your patience because there's additional messaging that we don't normally have on the destination sign. So you usually do just have the number there, but with COVID, we have some COVID messaging that is also on there now. So that might be why you're not seeing the number right away, because it's flashing these messages. And
Yeah.
we apologize for that, but we have to have them up right now just to what's going on.
Okay, so print me a little piece of paper with the number for in the window, please. Something, because really it is a problem.
Okay, we'll take that back with us. We appreciate you flagging
Okay,
that.
and I
Yep.
must say your drivers are fantastic. I love them all. And they're all
Well,
friendly
that's-
and help you and all that kind of thing. They're really
And-
good.
And that's great to hear. And to the counselors' comments before, I'd want to just highlight that they're the ones that, I want to give all the credit to being out there every day through this, ensuring that we continue to move people around who rely on us every day. So we'll be sure to pass that along too.
Thank you.
Okay, gentlemen, Mr. Austin, Mr. Benetti, thank you very much for joining us this evening. You've given us all some, I think, as we've said, very valuable information. And should anyone else who might be watching the meeting online need any information, please don't hesitate to contact Durham Region Transit.
We appreciate your time as well. Thank you very much, and always grateful for the level of engagement and interest at this committee. So thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, gentlemen.
All right, so we're going to move forward to item 4.2 on our agenda, annual report to council. I am going to turn it over to Sarah.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Good evening, everyone. I wanted to put this topic on the agenda as this is our last meeting. We will have a chance to be together prior to the report to council, which is scheduled for November the 16th. So just opening it up to members to see if there's particular priority areas of content that you would like Julia and myself to sort of nail down in our slide deck. The slide deck, of course, will be reviewed by all of you and circulated for comments prior to November 16th, but just to help us establish a framework for different topics of interest that you feel are important and representative of the work that the committee has done this year. Now, unfortunately, Madam Chair, I no longer can see the screen with everybody's hands, so I'm not able to collect a speakers list for you. I can try and see at a distance. I'm dealing with multiple screens in the room.
That's okay. Let's just start. Does anyone have any comments, please? And if we overlap, we'll try and go in if people overlap, we'll try and go in make an order. But does anyone wish to start with any comments?
If people are okay without me having the agenda on the screen, Madam Chair, I can leave it down for now.
Okay.
And
Okay.
help facilitate that discussion, if that's okay with everyone.
Any issues with that for anyone? All right, I appreciate that. Thank you very much. I think we're good to go, Sarah. So anyone, any comments to start?
Through the chair, one of the topics that I thought might be worth highlighting is the fact that we are in the pandemic this year and what has the impact been for people with disabilities within our community. So in terms of your suggestions, your experiences, changes to transit, changes to accessing services, the isolation that many individuals have encountered due to distancing, and just looking for thoughts and feedback on that as a particular topic to cover, as well as our National Access Awareness Week, our Guide Dog Awareness Month initiatives.
I've come across many issues with COVID that I can't think of right now, but unfortunately it's a lot of negative stuff. So I don't think you want to bring that up at council.
Through the chair, I think it's worth bringing up the different challenges that COVID has presented for people of various abilities, not necessarily to highlight all of the negatives, but also look at different opportunities. We did see, even when we were doing our National Access Awareness Week campaign, how new and innovative ideas that businesses have had have worked to increase accessibility accessibility. So in terms of having more curbside pickups or more outdoor seating that's accessible, as opposed to a facility that might have internally not been physically accessible prior to the pandemic, they've looked to still maintain that connection with their customers. So that could be a potential positive, but definitely there are unfortunately a lot of negatives, not just in relation to accessibility, but still something that might be worth highlighting.
I will send out an email.
Madam Chair, I don't know if you had any other ideas on your radar, but we can always continue the conversation offline as well and solicit additional feedback from members without putting them on the spot this evening, and continue the conversation via email with everyone.
I think definitely the fact that we were able to go ahead with a semblance of a National Access Week is a great thing to highlight, as well as the initiatives of Guide Dog Awareness Month. I mean, I think personally, just throwing it out there, I'm sure others have experienced this as a person, you know, with a disability. In terms of COVID, people with disabilities tend to be isolated as it is, and then with the further isolation of COVID, I know that there has been an escalation of mental health issues with mental health. So I think that might be something we could possibly look at. But I agree, we can definitely have more of this conversation offline. And if anyone has, in the meantime, if anyone thinks of something that they feel that Sarah and I should put in our slide deck or in our presentation or in the presentation to council, please be sure to send an email through to Sarah, and we will be putting that presentation together for that report. Moving on, we have item 4.3, Town of Ajax Community Awards nomination.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This is a quick one. So despite there being a pandemic this year, we will be continuing with our annual Ajax Community Awards program. I know this is something familiar to this committee here, as many members have in the past participated in the selection panel for the Community Awards. And the deadline for submission is November the 6th. It's a Friday. The application process has been streamlined this year. Instead of having a fulsome series of questions, there's just sort of an open-ended question and target areas that they're looking for nominees to hit at least one. And usually the practice for this particular committee in relation to the Accessibility Award is to submit a nomination for anyone that the committee has submitted for nominating to the Regional Accessibility Award. So we did at our previous meeting select Abira for nomination to the Regional Accessibility Award. And I wanted to bring it to the committee's attention tonight that there is a call for nominations for the local award. Not to say that that has to be done, but if the committee was of interest, it's an easy transition now that you've done the work to prepare the nomination for the region, that we could work to submit that for our local award as well. If that was the decision of the committee, we would just need a simple motion for the committee to direct staff to submit that nomination on behalf of the committee, but also we're open to any suggestions, and individuals are also eligible to submit nominations for any of the series of awards that we have available.
How does everybody feel about going ahead with nominating Abira for this award, or does anyone have another suggestion?
I see Catherine's hand.
No, I agree. I agree on putting Abira for the award.
Who's Abira?
The girl that got the automatic door openers for Ajax Community Center.
Okay.
We nominated her, Barb, for the Regional Accessibility Award. Anyone else?
Ray Smith speaking. Why can't we nominate her for the Ajax Award as well?
We can, Ray. I'm just seeing if how everyone feels about going ahead with nominating her for this award, or if anyone has any other thoughts.
Okay. I certainly put my nomination forward, but I'll wait for. Okay, go ahead.
Okay, no worries.
No worries.
Roseanne, yes.
Yes, thanks, Julia. I I would support that just because we took it took a lot of time for us to find a nominee for the Durham Region Award. That you know, given that we are really, really pressed for time for November 6th, I would go ahead with Abira. Yeah. Times haven't changed much with moving around and so.
Councillor Khan has a comment, Madam
Yeah.
Chair.
Quickly, can you guys just refresh me who Abira is and why she's getting this award? And if she has an award, why she's being nominated for another award? Just not against it. I just want to be refreshed. I'm totally
Okay,
lost. Sorry.
Certainly.
So
Madam Chair, would you
if
like me to
you'll-
provide that overview?
if you want, I can do it as well.
Okay, nope, go for it. I'll fill in the blanks.
So if you'll recall, Councillor Khan, I believe it was last month, we had a discussion on nomination for the Regional Accessibility Award, and we were speaking about the young woman who brought the idea to the Accessibility Advisory Committee of soliciting funding for the automatic door openers for the washrooms at the, I believe it was the Ajax Community Center at the ice pads. She was nominated. We put more forward to nominate her for the regional award, and it's customary, although not necessary, that this committee tends to nominate the same or the Ajax award as we have nominated for the regional award.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just to add to that, Abira is a local Ajax youth representative. She's had experience on our youth engagement advisory committee, and she was recognized by this committee because she took the initiative and approached the town to partner for a grant project opportunity under the Enabling Accessibility Fund. So it's always been of interest to this committee to support our youth engagement from an accessibility perspective. And in terms of the nomination for local versus regional, it's honestly a matter of timing. The call for nominations from the region came at a time that was earlier than the towns. So, but it, as Madam Chair mentioned, it is sort of our normal practice that we want to honor first our own roots here in Ajax, but also support them at a regional level.
Thank you. Very impressive. She has my vote, but again, if anybody else has any other nominees, it would be only fair to bring that forward and then you do that pick. But if not, then definitely very impressive. Thank you.
Ray Smith, go on.
Nope, go ahead, Mr. Smith.
I do have one. I know it's going to be a no, but I'm going to throw it out anyway. Could we nominate Sarah Moore as a private citizen, knowing she's hired by Town of Ajax as an award nominee? I'm only throwing it out.
I agree, Ray.
Through the chair, I'm extremely flattered, and that's very heartfelt and touching to hear the support of that nature. But unfortunately, no, town staff and councillors are not eligible for town awards.
Darn it, I tried.
I have
I'm not
tried
gonna
that.
comment on that. I'm not gonna comment on that. Yeah, but she doesn't deserve
Ray,
that.
I've tried that many times.
Thank you for trying, but we all try. Sarah's number one.
Thank you. But for the task at hand, is there anyone that would like to put forward a motion?
Is there any reason why it can't be a committee member that's done a lot?
No?
I would nominate Catherine Smith.
We can't hear you.
She's been on forever and ever, right?
I agree.
Comments, questions?
Ray Smith speaking, I certainly agree of a committee member, and Catherine's been on there since I've known, and I think that, you know, instead of re-nominating somebody, I certainly agree of nominating a citizen of Ajax, committed citizen, and Kathleen is perfect, you know, a perfect citizen, and she does wonderful for accessibility.
Well, that's really nice. If it's Sarah says there's no conflict of interest, then you guys are free to to make that nomination, I guess, right? Is there a conflict of interest with that, Sarah?
I would like to confirm, because I
Yes.
know that members of the committee are allowed to sit on the selection panel.
Yeah.
I'm not sure as a committee of council if the eligibility would still be restricted because you're still at arm's length a part of the organization,
Yeah.
if you
Exactly. That's what I was concerned about. But if Sarah, if you can confirm that. But in the meantime, it is a pressing matter, so you guys better make a decision quick, right? So,
1, 2, 3, go.
ooh.
Who?
Vera,
Oh, okay, so where are we gonna leave this? Sarah, you gonna check on that and then get back to everybody, or?
What I
Do we-
may do is see if I can check currently while the meeting is going on, and if we could maybe defer this item and come back to it in a moment. Would that be?
Sure. Sure. So, next on the agenda, 4.4 National Day of Persons with Disabilities, December 3rd, 2020.
So Madam Chair, just while I try and find out the answer to that question, if you wouldn't mind talking a little bit about your idea that you had and see the committee's feedback, and I will hopefully get a response for us.
So, obviously we have coming up on December 3rd, the National Day of Persons with Disabilities. And Sarah and I had been talking, and I had a thought of, currently in the foyer of the town hall, which of course isn't open to anybody. I happened to be there one day when we were filming some video for Guide Dog Awareness Month, and I exited through the foyer, and Sarah just gave me a moment to look at the display of, it's an art installation done by people with brain injury, and it's they've done face masks with artistic renderings depicting their experience with brain injury, and then there's a little write-up that goes beside the mask. Now, it's an amazing display. I was floored by just how the stories of some of these people and the expression that they've got through art on these masks. And so the thought that I had was to do a video display to be done online, and then connecting with one or two perhaps of the people who actually did the masks, one or two of the participants, and get their story and just their experience with brain injury. Now, Sarah has reached out to the individual who was in charge of the association doing that, and we're looking into seeing if there would be any issue with having some of the installation participants being on video like that. But does anyone have any thoughts as to what do you think about that? Do you have any other ideas that you might like to put forward for us to sort of highlight for this National Day of Persons with Disabilities? Thoughts, comments, questions?
I think it's a great idea to bring attention to, unfortunately, the masks that no one's ever seen because of the COVID. So that would be a way of people seeing.
Madam Chair, I believe Roseanne also had her hand up.
Thank you. Yes, I've personally seen the display, and it is wonderful. It's great, a great visual. And I don't know if with the presentation or putting together something, if it's not time constrained, we could envelop the whole kind of invisible disabilities and bring in epilepsy Durham. It's only two ladies that run it, so and they have wonderful stories as well. Epilepsy, somewhat it's not a brain injury, but it is an invisible disability. And I was just thinking the ladies there have a wealth of experience in that area. I don't know if that's an option of kind of merging those two. And we have other Durham Mental Health Services could be involved in that as with the invisible disabilities. Yeah, I just throw that out there as maybe incorporating it a little wider as an option.
It's Barb. Do we have any idea where this would be presented? Are you talking about short term on a television commercial or a long term? I think it makes a difference what type of presentation you want to do. You want to know how it's going to work out, sort of, no?
Talking about a long-term presentation that would be available online.
On the town website? Show up periodically, maybe?
More than likely, it would be something that would be linked to something like YouTube, simply because of the length of the presentation. It wouldn't be there would be a link. I would assume there could be a link on the town's webpage, but it wouldn't actually appear on something. It couldn't actually be played on the website simply because of the length of the production. But it would be something that would be available for a longer period of time. Sarah, you had, do you have any thoughts on what Roseanne mentioned?
Yes, sorry, just to, and remind me, I do have an answer to our previous question. I was successful. Yes, in terms of a video, we were thinking, we have approached the Brain Injury Association of Durham. I'm just awaiting to hear back to see whether or not we may also have the opportunity to extend the installation into the new year, at which time maybe later in 2021, our facilities will be a little bit more open to the public and we'll be able to have people see the exhibit in person. But yes, in the interim, this was sort of a solution that was presented to allow people to virtually see the exhibit. I could foresee if we had a video made with sort of interviews with maybe some of the artists, representatives from Brain Injury Association. For this particular project, I would suggest that maybe we do focus on the Brain Injury Association of Durham as it relates directly to the art exhibit itself. But I do see value in what Roseanne has suggested as well. And if I'm not mistaken, I believe March or April is Epilepsy Awareness Month. And perhaps we can look to, as we might as well be in this virtual mindset well into the next year as well, think of those creative ways that we can engage those different recognition months throughout the year in a new way that we may not have previously. So I would suggest that we focus for a video, and it doesn't even necessarily have to be for International Day of Persons with Disabilities, but in relation to the unmasking exhibit, create a video version of that particular display. And in turn, that will expand access really to that particular display that we physically have right now. I think Kaylee also had a question.
Oh, I was going to say, I love the idea of doing a video of the masks, because it's so unfortunate that so many people haven't been able to see them yet. And wondering if through the Brain Injury Association, if there are any other types of art or maybe like poetry or music that are written by people with brain injuries that we could also add on to the video.
Okay.
Somebody talking? I can see this as a long-term project that take different areas and even take more than one disability at a time and put them together and show what's available, what not available, but different people that are around. I think it could be a very good long-term project.
So you can see potential growth. So if we started with one, and if it's successful, we can move on, similar to what Roseanne has suggested. And I believe Julia had those ideas as well, to sort of expand it and talk about maybe even some of the organizations and even different disabilities that don't get the regular platform of of communication and promotion and awareness as
Yeah.
some of the others. So definitely something that we can look into.
Yeah.
Madam Chair, if I may, I also had a few other updates for the committee on International Day of Persons with Disabilities.
Of course, please.
Okay, so I think as follow-up to our previous meeting, it was suggested that there was interest in the committee doing something collective again, similar to what we did for National Access Awareness Week. And the idea was tossed around about some type of a video. I know we just talked about a virtual tour, but in terms of a short snippet video for social media, I wanted to get the committee's feedback on, similar to what Ray had suggested with our accessibility means photo board that we've done in the past, because International Day of Persons with Disabilities is a little bit different than National Access Awareness Week. It's focusing on the person, the individual. I wanted to seek your feedback on what the idea might be to have video snippets of individuals holding up a board that completes the phrase, people with disabilities, blank, and try to break down some of the stereotypes and myths associated with people with disabilities, and in turn look to engage the community in a conversation about what their thoughts are as well, similar to what we did sort of to piggyback on our hashtag Access Together Ajax campaign. And we could promote that through our various social media channels, and it would be an opportunity for all of you to get together at a distance. We would sew it all together with whomever wanted to participate and share your thoughts and ideas.
Great. Yes.
There's interest. Excellent. So we can move ahead with planning on that. That's great to hear your feedback. And then an exciting piece of news. I know we've all been a little disappointed that we haven't been able to have our typical events this year. And we've been really missing out on working with some of our regular partners and colleagues, especially our friends at the Ajax Public Library. So I was in conversation with Cindy Poon, the manager over at our main branch, and we came up with an idea to also hopefully promote International Day of Persons with Disabilities, with interest in hosting a virtual watch party of a movie where individuals would be able to access the movie for free using their Town of Ajax library card, their Ajax Public Library card, and they would log into the library system and using Canopy would access the same movie at a same scheduled time and sort of have a collective watch party. Even in your own homes, you could get together in your own familial bubbles and possibly facilitate an online conversation while the film is going on. So we kind of went through the catalog of films and we came across one, I'm not sure if anybody's heard of it. It's called Keep the Change. And it's a unique film. I'll see if I can pull up the trailer. Probably not. But if not, I'll be able to send the trailer link out this evening. Oh, maybe if I do this. Let's see here. Get back to Zoom. The unique thing about this film is that it stars two individuals with disabilities, individuals who live on the with the autism spectrum disorder, and they're acting with their own lived experiences. It's not a Hollywood movie star that's pretending that they have a disability or need an accommodation. So it's unique in that respect. Let's see. Portrayal of accessibility that we have seen at our typical TIP screenings, but something that's a part of our Ajax Public Library catalog and would definitely be a catalyst for some great conversation regarding accessibility and people with disabilities. So I throw it out there for your thoughts and feedback.
Wow.
I think it's a great idea. To the thought of, even though we're going to be distant from it would be distant from each other. The thought of knowing you're watching a movie with everybody at the same time. I think Sarah, earlier you had suggested possibly putting together some questions or having some people on social media to carry on some conversations at the same time that the movie's happening. It would be a nice way to connect. And I mean, obviously, I'm sure there's a disclaimer on the movie that perhaps it's PG-13 or whatever, but I think it would be great. I don't know what everybody else thinks, but
It'd be showing on December 3rd.
Yes, we could look to host it at a specific time where it's really the type of event where we're kind of suggesting people participate, but we don't necessarily have to coordinate anything. This movie is part of the library's Canopy catalog, accessible to anybody with the library card at any time. But if you wanted that collective experience and conversation opportunity, we would look to say, okay, at a certain time, say 7 p.m., we would encourage people to log online, view the movie, and follow along online if they wanted to take part in the conversation.
Sounds
Basically
great.
speaking, right?
right.
Okay. Okay. I love the idea. And I'm gonna be very honest. I didn't like the trailer for the movie, but I'm not a very good movie person, so maybe there could be other suggestions for a movie to show. I think it was a little risque, but I love the idea of collective people watching and commenting.
Councillor Kwan?
Yeah, the movie is a bit different from what we usually look at, and it's got me thinking. It really has surprisingly taken away a lot of stigma from the whole idea of of autism and people with challenges and how normal they can be within. It's got me thinking. I've never seen that before, and it's brought a lot of normalcy into the world, and it's about time we embrace it. Like Ray said, it's risque, but I think it's time. Come out of our shell and understand people are it brings a big sense of normalcy to the world, to me, and I like it. I like taking that chance. Throw it out there and see what happens.
Yep. Go for it.
Yeah, there's been, sorry, through the chair, there's been other ones like The Other Sister and another movie with Sean Penn, who has a child, in the past. And no, it's great to have that discussion afterward, though. Yeah. So, I guess it has its time periods or cycles where a movie like this will come out. And it's wonderful. Like, this is great. It reminds me of Crip Camp that came out on Netflix earlier this year, where a group of people with disabilities was able to change legislation in the US. But yeah, I think there's always risks when when we're viewing it with all different sort of levels of unconscious bias, right? Yeah, but I fully support it. I'd love to be a part of it.
Really?
There will be some kind of backlash with that, you know that, right? Sitting on council, you can't please everybody, but
No, and
it's a game.
a conversation that's worth being had here. And I think it needs to really be driven by the committee in terms of what the real interest is in order for staff to take it back and see what challenges we might encounter. I look at it from multiple viewpoints as an individual, as many of you can say that this isn't a typical view that we have seen previously in some of the movies that we have presented, but then again, necessarily, is it the most appropriate thing? I'm not sure. I'm here to seek feedback from the group tonight.
Ray speaking.
Sorry, Greg, go ahead.
No. Go ahead, Kathleen. Go ahead.
Hang on.
I love the fact that it's people with real disabilities that are acting.
Right.
Heather speaking. May I ask a question, please?
Can we wait? Hang on 1 second, please. Sarah, did you say that Kaylee had a question?
Yes, I believe she had her hand up.
Okay, so let's go ahead with Kaylee. Then we're going to go ahead with Ray, and then we're going to go ahead with Heather.
All right.
Kaylee speaking. I was going to say I really like the movie. It's quite different, but I like how it's breaking down the stereotypes that sometimes people with disabilities are not seen in a dating situation or seen as sexual beings and so forth. So I think it's kind of a nice light, maybe a little risque, but a funny, like a comedy for a change.
Ray, your thoughts?
I just threw it out there as a non-movie person. The only movie I love is Star Trek, but I just threw it out there. The only suggestion I have is, I'm seeking the interest from the committee, but maybe we can just go back to the library, Ajax Library, and see what other movies they can suggest as well. I guess I'm just on the cautious side.
Definitely. We don't have to make a decision tonight. It's more for feedback to see if the committee is of interest in doing something like this. And of course, we can look back and look at alternative films, but I'm grateful for all of the feedback that's shared.
Heather, you had a thought?
Yes, in addition to the movie, I'm wondering if we could challenge Councillor Khan to drive a scooter on a DRT bus for my birthday.
Yeah, go for it.
And then add that to the movie.
Yeah, there you go. Your big one, Heather.
Pardon?
Your big one.
So,
It's
Madam Chair,
close.
I'm
It's
out
getting
just to get back on track with the conversation. I'm of the understanding that we'll take this back and we'll do some more thinking, that it's not necessarily the right choice of a movie that all of the committee would be interested in. We seem a little divided on it. So if I can take that feedback back to the library and see if that there are alternatives available to us and then report back to everyone. Is that what I'm hearing from everyone?
Yes, please.
I'd like to diversify.
5.5, which is correspondence. Does anyone have any, Sarah, is there any correspondence that we need to be looking at this evening?
No, Madam Chair, there was nothing included this month.
Okay, so given that, let's move on to 6. Councillor Khan, do we have any update from council this evening?
I got 2 little things to bring to you, not that little. Last time we spoke about Amazon coming to Ajax, and it was a very big win for us. This time I want to bring to you the Grandview Children's Center has been approved for Ajax as well. The headquarters for Grandview Children's Center, which deals with, it provides family-centered pediatric and rehab services for children and youth with physical, communication, and developmental needs. And this is something that's right in the heart of our committee here. And so what has happened, roughly, the federal government has given $17 million to this project. The provincial government has given $30 million to this project. And your Ajax has given the land for it to be built in North Ajax. And they're looking to break ground in November 2021, and it should be completed in 2023. So it's a very, very big plus, especially for accessibility. And we're very proud of this, that Ajax again had the honor of leading this charge. So that's one. The second part, I've been working with the Durham Regional Police for the last 4 or 5 months, right through summer. And our residents are having, and I don't know if you do too, we're having a lot of issues with very loud vehicles, with muffler noises and all that stuff, right? So I've been hearing that from our residents, especially our seniors and young parents with their little babies. And we've just to give you a little quick briefing, we've developed an instrument that, because there is no, just for loud mufflers, for example, forget about the racing, but the loud mufflers that affects people, especially people who are challenged and people with disabilities and accessibility issues, it's scary. So the Durham Regional Police we've developed an instrument that, because there's no way to measure the sound of a muffler, for example. So we have this computer that you can plug into the cars. They can pull over a car for being loud, plug it in, and see if it's bypassed the Environmental Act. Because for it to be loud, they have to bypass certain parts in the car, like the catalytic converter, to make it loud, which compromises our Environmental Act. And we have given the police the permission, and I just had a recent report that they're allowed to impound cars or impound your plates and suspend your driver's license. So it's things that, little things like this, that are really, really big things that we take a lot of work to get accomplished, and it has happened. And we have officers equipped with these computers now. And also, don't forget, I always remind you to don't forget to upload the App Jax app on your phones take photos of number plates. You can make reports to the Durham Regional Police, because safety is a priority for our residents, and especially for our accessibility aware residents. So yeah, those are my two things. They're big things. They're Grandview, and this us trying to carve or at least work on the traffic calming for our Ajax. And thank you for your patience and listening to me bring that forward. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. That
Thank
was
you,
good.
Councillor Khan. I personally am so excited that you have developed along with Durham Regional Police this endeavor, because I live right by City Hall, and it's a huge problem. So
It's nice, right? Scary. It makes you jump. People can't.
it not only makes me jump,
Right.
it makes my service dog jump.
Yeah.
And there are nights that it's so bad that she's rattled enough the next day that she can't focus on her work.
And this
So
problem is decades of years old, and now we're finally coming around to finding a solution.
it seems to be getting significantly worse.
Oh, don't worry, it's gonna stop. We're seizing cars now. It's gonna stop. I can promise you that. All right. Well, thank you. That was my report.
I also wanted to second your encouragement of downloading the AppJax app. I have used it many times. It's wonderful. It goes, you take a picture, you open the app, you take a picture, it marks where you are exactly, and it goes straight to where it needs to go. So it's fantastic.
And that was made for you with your money that you pay in your taxes. It was made, you better use it. It's yours. And it's for the benefits of our residents. I think Roseanne wanted to ask something.
Thank you, Councillor Khan. Just very quickly, yes, thank you for that update. I'm surprised I didn't hear about the just the location earmarked for Grandview.
Yeah,
just because I'm in the field, I'm surprised I
south
didn't hear.
of Taunton Road off of Harwood. On that curve, there's a set of townhouses. Then there's a corner. There's a massive piece of land that we've given.
Oh yes. Okay.
And that's good use of our land. And we've given it for free. That is good use, I think, of our limited land that we have. That we can support accessibility and children and with challenges. That fills my heart.
Great.
Great.
All right. So moving on to 7, external committee reports. Ray, we would like to hear from you on the age-friendly meeting committee. Can you give us an update?
Can I give you a written update? I'm not prepared to give an update tonight.
Oh, okay, that would be great. Why don't you submit an update to Sarah so that she can
Absolutely
submit it to the rest of the committee? Yeah. Okay.
No problem.
Wonderful. Moving on to 7.2. Roseanne, do you have an update from the regional AAC?
Since our last meeting, our last Ajax Accessibility Advisory meeting, there has been no regional accessibility advisory meeting, and there won't be one until following the November 18th meeting. So my next update won't be till our December meeting.
Wonderful. All right, moving on. 8, other business. Have we got any other business that needs to be brought forward this evening?
Madam Chair, if I could just suggest going back to item 4.3 for a moment, as I did have a chance to clarify eligibility for the community board.
Yes, of course.
So it has been confirmed that members of advisory committees are eligible as nominees. The caveat there is that if the committee is looking to propose the nomination, committee members would be exempt from participating on voting as part of the selection panel. However, there are multiple categories within each of the awards for youth, for adult, as well as for business organizations. So the committee could potentially look to put forward more than one nomination for that particular award.
Sarah.
Sorry, I'm going to stop sharing the screen so I can see hands again.
Oh, yeah.
what I was gonna say was, can you, is it possible for you to, Sarah, send out to the committee members a breakdown of the different categories within each awards so that we can see kind of where we might be able to nominate who, or is this something we need to make a nomination, a motion on this evening?
So definitely, Madam Chair, I can do that. However, the focus of the discussion tonight is in relation to the committee's interest in putting forward nominations for the Accessibility Award category.
I'm sorry. Of course.
Organization as well as an adult award. But
Okay.
as residents of Ajax, you are more than happy to submit a nomination for any of the categories. However, if the committee was looking to do something collectively, we would look to do so to support the Accessibility Award.
My apologies. I thought you meant there was different categories within each, like within accessibility, or but
Oh, sorry.
I misunderstood.
That's okay.
Okay, so then this evening, how are we thinking as a committee we would like to proceed with nominating for the Ajax Award? Can we
Ray-
get?
Ray
And again,
speaking.
through the chair, sorry, Ray, just sorry
No,
to
no,
move off there. If it's not something that the committee can look to make a decision on this evening, I know we are running close to the end of our time. If there are one or two members that would like to take that on, they can do so. It just wouldn't be a nomination on behalf of the committee as a whole. It would be as individuals. And I know that that has been something that individuals that have proceeded with the nomination. It just wouldn't be under the umbrella of the committee.
Thoughts, everybody? Anybody?
Yeah.
Ray speaking.
Yes, Ray.
I still go with another suggestion, nominate Kathleen Smith.
Do I hear a motion, Ray?
Yes, you do. It's my motion to nominate Kathleen Smith for the Accessibility Award for Ajax.
Have a seconder to nominate Katrine for the Ajax Award.
I'll second it.
Heather Steve.
Okay, can we have a vote,
Heather.
please? All in favor?
All right.
Right.
In favor.
All right, it would appear motion carries. So we will be putting that together and going from there.
So
Speaking
from
of
the perspective, is there any interest from the committee in a second nomination, or is the committee fine with the nomination as it is now? I only ask as it has been practiced in the past, but.
Okay, does anyone want to make a second nomination?
Well, no, a second, no.
We want to nominate Abira this evening. Katrine.
Is that a motion?
Is that a motion, Katrine, to nominate Abira? Yes?
No.
You're on mute, Catherine. Catherine.
Yes, that's a motion.
Okay. Do we have a seconder to nominate Abira this evening?
I see Cephaline.
Okay, so all in favor? So this
sorry.
would be,
Hold your hands, guys. 1, 2, 3. Anybody on the phone? Can't see your
I'm
hand.
on for Kathleen.
It's sorry for clarification. It's not exclusive of it. It's not one or the other.
Oh yeah, Abira too. Yes. All
we
right.
we would be nominating both.
Okay.
Sorry.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Good job explaining things this evening.
We'd be nominating both this evening.
Correct. It's
So in light of that clarification, all in favor of making a second nomination for Abira for the award as well?
Aye.
Aye.
Catherine, Roseanne, are your hands up now?
Yeah.
I really want Catherine. Yes, I support Abira too.
It's, but
Done a lot of work.
clarification,
Kathy.
multiple accessibility awards could be given out. It's not exclusive as, it's not like the region where there's one.
Oh, see, that part I wasn't clear on. Okay, okay, go ahead. Yeah.
This evening. So under the accessibility category, there could be an award for an individual, a youth representative, as well as a business organization.
Okay.
Everybody,
Let's think about that for a week.
Like, really?
Have you gotten an accurate hand count?
I believe so, yes.
Yeah, I think
So,
we're 5.
Motion, are we carrying, is the motion carried?
Carried.
Yes.
All right, motion carried. All right, so I believe that leads towards our adjournment, unless there is anything else. We are at time. So we are going to, I'd like to let everybody know that our next meeting is on Wednesday, November the 18th, 2020 at 6 p.m. We will be being live streamed again, as Sarah said, for the foreseeable future. I'd like to thank everyone for joining us this evening. Could I have a motion to put forward for adjournment this evening?
Councillor Khan.
I have a seconder.
Ray Smith.
Greenspan.
All right, motion, all in favor?
Aye.
Motion carried. Thank you very much, everybody, for joining the Ajax Accessibility Advisory Committee. Have a great evening until we see you next time.